All right. How do we start this one?
I mean, I guess it's been 5 years of these. Yeah. So this month, this is a 5 year anniversary of doing these. So yeah, something a little different in terms of like, I think it'd be interesting to like kind of reflect on the project and talk about how it started, like, I don't know, how it's been going, like how you approach it, like what's your,
Well, do you remember how it started? Do you want to tell that story?
Yeah, I mean, I guess we had the idea to do something like this for quite a while, so longer than 5 years. And I think some of the very, very, very first origins of it was doing the improv analysis during my thesis. That idea of having some kind of like reflection about improv was really interesting. And I think some people who read it were like, oh, it's kind of cool seeing what people are thinking. I was like, yeah, that is kind of interesting. Like, how do we make that more visible beyond that like laborious process of doing those analyses, which is really cool, but it's like, that's a very laborious process.
It was tedious, and it needed people to engage with like a bit of software, like you gave them different streams to work with, and it was like a not weird, but like particular thing you were
and it was very involved, and I mean, there was a lot of information that came out of that, but it was a very involved process. So there was something of that, like that there was something interesting about that. And then I remember having a chat, I want to say it was with Dan Dirks, where we had where we were talking about some like comedy improv and this, and I think he had mentioned some podcast where they like improvised a scene and then talked about it, and then improvised some more and then talked about it. Some sort of structure like that where they came in and out of improv, and that seemed like a really cool format.
Yep.
So I think like a bunch of these things were bubbling in the background, and then we had the idea to start just filming some of these things.
Well, at the same time also, I had already been doing a lot of filming and filming musicians, and obviously you were one of those musicians, but I was filming all sorts of different instruments as well, and like the way people in different contexts, so like rehearsals, concerts, solo stuff, music videos even. So like I think a wide gamut of like different different contexts, some more creative, some more for documentation, and this kind of fell in the middle. It wasn't just ever going to be just documentation.
For sure, yeah.
We wanted to like have the video kind of be an interesting part of it as well. To have a look, or to have it be like appealing in some way, watchable.
I mean, we had also just done those like everything at once series of videos where they were purposefully filmed in an aesthetic way. Like the visual language of it was a big part of that.
We took that into account.
I think for me, some of the, I want to say, like looking back at not that I did this recently, but like some of the original notes I've written down for this, I think part of the
Play Talk Play
was to do it in like situ of people's spaces.
Oh right, yeah.
So I think that was kind of part of it that dissolved very quickly, and then also like COVID happened, so like most of them have happened here in the studio. But
actually, that's worth mentioning. Okay, so Play Talk Play started the first one was in February.
No, March. Yeah.
It's the worst.
March 2020, yeah. I mean, by that point we had filmed quite a few, so that's part of it as well. Like we had the idea, we had been filming some. It didn't have a name yet. I mean, we never say the name in the video, so that doesn't matter one way or another. But we had filmed some, and then by the time that March came around, we had four or five like in the can.
I don't know if it was that many. I do want to give credit to both Ray Evanoff and Audrey Chen, who specifically went into it kind of like sight unseen. So we had them in the can before they knew what it was.
Yeah, for sure.
Which is quite cool of them both to kind of trust us with the process or whatever.
And I think at that point we had enough. It must have been at least 3, because we were like, okay, we have enough that we can start putting them out and then film more as we go and have those kind of to fill in the gaps. So that was 5 years ago in March. Then obviously COVID happened, and that slowed things down a little bit. But it was interesting kind of thinking about some of that process. And I mean, obviously, like when you start anything, you don't think about it going on forever, and 5 years is 5 years towards forever. But like it's many of them now. Like there's quite a few of them that we've done. So it's I thought this was an interesting one to kind of chat about the project, and obviously like get some insights from you in terms of like how you approach things and how you film musicians, and like origins of it, and like how maybe some of the, specifically to Play Talk Play, how some of the filming has changed over time or anything like that.
Well, sure. I I think maybe originally the idea was that I was gonna do, if not all of them, like the majority of them. One of the ways it's changed actually is where sometimes in different locations, and you have access to musicians when I'm not there, and it's not practical for me to be there. So in some cases, maybe 25% of the cases, 20% of the cases, no, less. It's gonna be less.
Yeah.
It's you setting up some of the cameras.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's different. That's more, I guess, documentation style, but we always try to have at least two cameras when that does happen.
I mean, you still edit them and make them like, you know, a bit more vibrant. But yeah, there's like on tour or when I'm traveling and have the opportunity to take cameras and to have access to musicians that aren't here.
Right. Or where we're at a place together.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, it's more to like capitalize on the chance to film somebody that you're just around.
I mean, I guess one thing like more about Play Talk Play at Large is that since we've filmed so many of them now and it has enough momentum that like it feels a lot less, not that it felt really pressured at any point, but like we have many at the go at any given point. Yeah. So now it's a bit more like when there's a friend visiting that we're on tour, or like when they're, you know, we can sort of film a bit more like as and when, as opposed to being like, okay, who are we going to get for this month? You know, like.
Well, one of the things, I guess this is worth bringing up now, is we haven't done any repeats.
Yeah, for sure.
Yet.
Yeah, and I like that. I know you've wanted to
I
dip into
like that
some
too.
repeats.
But yeah, I don't mind repeats,
Yeah.
actually. But yeah, no, we haven't needed to. You think we'll run out of musicians in the world that will want to do this?
No, but I think, I mean, it would be, I'm not fully against repeats, but I think I like the, I like how it works, and that like it tends to be, and this wasn't a part of it from the beginning, but it has been, I don't know what percentage of it has been, but a not insignificant percentage have been people I've never played with before, which was, I don't think I think part of the idea was to have it be friends, circle of friends, like people that we know and, you know, perhaps have played with, because there's a lot of those.
Yep.
But just because the way it's ended up in like word of mouth and talking to a friend of a friend and someone suggests someone, it's been a lot of people where like I've met them for the first time then and there, and then played with them for the first time then and there, which has been not part of the plan, but like a very nice side effect and interesting part of the process for me, because, you know, to go like when you're improvising with someone, like there's, you know, inadvertently, and there's always some exposition in terms of like how you figure out like what language you're speaking and all that, which is always the case with improv, but like when it's someone you've never played with before, there's an extra layer of that, which has been surprising. Shall I play a bit?
I guess. I guess I'll film it. I don't know. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the most exciting parts about the idea of doing this, like, kind of 5-year anniversary one, was to talk to you as like the artist of your fingerprint and your touch, and like what the you know the act of capturing performance and not documentation. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like I guess a little bit of like with that, like that started off as an offshoot of like documentation of our own creative practice together. But then
No, video or the use of video first started, and it was always like this creative thing, this creative medium. Like right away, I remember some of the first things I filmed were just like ways
that's
of
true, yeah.
capturing meta and meta-ness in reality, and yeah, it was. I won't say anymore.
yeah.
But yeah, it was a way to. It was a not a strange medium, but like it was a medium in which these things were like appearing, these strange things, like weird synchronicities. It would capture synchronicities in ways that like I don't know if other mediums for me were doing. It was always that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess like you have a lot of experience at this point, like filming, well, specifically me, but like musicians and improvisers, and like what do you, I guess in the context of a play talk play, there's like, they tend to be here, they tend to be multicam, they tend to, like there's a kind of a specific context that we've arrived at, or you've arrived at in terms of like an aesthetic language. But you've done, as you mentioned earlier, like a lot of like music videos, a lot of things that are like concerts, or like what, like, I mean, how does like filming musicians relate to your, like, can you talk about your practice in that?
Yeah, well, this is a particular thing where we're also doing interviews too, or interview type things.
Yeah.
So it's like talking head stuff, and this doesn't have to be dynamic. I think I did try it, or like even when people would like show things, it's not like it's kind of distracting if I'm in there with like a moving camera, being more dynamic with that. I arrived at a place with these where like to give equal weight to the speakers, I like having two people in one shot as we speak, or you speak with them. And if I do switch over, which sometimes I might just to mix it up because I'm not like dogmatic about it, I'll switch over and give them the the close-up cam and cut to them more than I cut to you.
People seen enough of me.
Well, I think we just want to like, yeah, you're in all of them, so like let's give the other person some spotlight. I think, you know, like it's nice to have a video made of you, so I want them to get something out of it as well. So more shots, more good shots of them. I guess that's another thing. I might show their face in it more or their expressions in it more, even if they're not singers or have an instrument that is near or around their face, just to show, it usually brings like a bit of drama, I guess, to it, showing faces or like intensity or...
Embodies it as well, I guess, like we...
Personalizes it maybe,
that's
so it's good for those reasons. Whereas I don't tend to do that with you so much. I think, with you, I tend to show what you're doing and your hands and like, because at this point, like you have a lot of shit going on and I'm trying to show, what's interesting about what you're doing is the other things, like, and people can see your face in other places for the same reasons. Let's show them, right? So I guess that's that 2-shot. I'll often have a shot where I'm moving around with like a macro lens, and that's just aesthetically, I like that. And I'll use that in as many things as I can get away with. I like that kind of movement, and I think I'm good at it, and I think I get good shots. I can get in the position where I can get those good shots. Like, I think that's something I can do well.
For sure.
And this setup allows me to do that, where I'm like in there with a handheld and a macro lens with a follow focus. And I find the shots I get with that quite satisfying, visually satisfying. And then I'll usually have another camera setup that's also a close-up, but not a super close-up, and it'll be of like, you know, head and shoulders type of thing. If the person has an especially interesting setup for whatever reason, like we've had a couple people that use pedal boards with interesting things, or they're doing stuff like that, I'll focus on that thing. I'll set up a shot that's just that and sacrifice one of the cameras that I've just described for that. I can go into, one of the things with the macro lens and like the rig, the handheld rig, is like when I'm filming you, one of the things I put a lot of attention on is trying to like, because the depth of field is so shallow, and I like that. I like the look of that. But that means like, it feels like an actual capture. Like I got it. I'm on it. I got it. I'm tracking it. And then if something is in front of another thing, like your two hands, or you have the slider, I have to move it to that spot to get it into focus. And I always feel like when I nail it, I'm like, got it. You know, sometimes it's like, oh, where are we? I kind of lost it a little bit here for like, no one's going to notice. It's like fractions of a second, but I'm like so like in it that those fractions of a second actually feel longer. I'm like, oh God, lost it. Where am I? There it is. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, having set up some of these cameras and done some of the filming, I think it's more than like when you do the tight shots and like it's that like disembodied gestural capture. It's not just like framing focus. It's not like so utilitarian. Like
right.
It's like this. It's like a kind of a fluid thing, like where not just capturing the action. There's like how you negotiate that. I think both the frame, like you yourself physically moving forward, back, left, right, and all that, and then the focus. You know, like these things, like there's like I don't know what the term for that would be, but like you capture, like you project a gestural capturing energy on top of the gestural happening that's happening, and those things are moving in a relationship that's not just synced. You're not
totally
like an
agree.
automaton, like just following it.
Yeah. So I just described like the way in which I my emotional state and psychological state while I'm doing it. What I try to show, like I'm fully aware that I get to decide what it is we're putting an oculus on. I mean, literally, right? But it feels like a microscope in that I get to show this thing, or what, not only what I get to find important about it, but like this bit of foil is really beautiful. And so when that like showed up, I was like, okay, no, I want to show this, I want to get this. And it, you pulled it off quite quickly. So we only got a little bit of that, but like anytime you were going to bring that on, I was going to focus on that as much as I could. I also like capturing, this crotale. Is that how you pronounce it? Someone corrected us. Okay. Crotale. I also like capturing the space between the drum head and the crotale itself when you hold it there, like in tension. I don't know. I just like, it's like a horizon or something. So I'm like, I'm going to get this. And no sound is coming out of that. I mean, I know there's feedback coming from the relationship of where you place it, but it's just a space, and other things are going on, but like that's what I'm capturing. Yeah. So, I'm looking around for images like that, like as if this was an environment, a surface. You know?
I mean, I purposefully I chose. I mean, I do a lot of drums for these things, but I chose a snare and like this kind of feedback kind of thing because we have a lot of history in filming that specific thing, that I thought it would be like an interesting, like, not callback, but like there's a relationship in with us working together with like these kinds of snare sounds.
Actually, let me ask you, because that's a thing that like you've done before, where I'll move and you realize I'm doing something, and then all of a sudden you're playing with that,
Yeah, it's tricky. Like I am aware of your movements, and more so with the macro. With the macro, I know I can like look at the camera and I don't exist. Like my face doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Whereas like with one of these cameras, I know that like if you're walking around with that, I know enough to not look at the camera because I know I'll be, So I know that like with that, I'm afforded a lot more liberties in terms of like what I'm focusing on, what I'm doing. So I am much more aware of what you're doing. And I do know that like some of these things will look interesting, like the foil and the little chain. Like, so I kind of know that there's something to that. I try not to create like a puppet show. Like if I see you focusing on a thing, I try not to purposefully extend that beyond what I think is musically useful. So I am aware of it.
Except once you had a little skateboard and did an ollie on the drum head.
I mean, at this point, towards the end, I was almost like drawing words with the chain, but I didn't want to go that far with it. But like, I think there's some like self-conscious, like performative sub-performance things that happen sometimes. But I think with these, like, I'm aware of it and I realize that, but I try not to. I'm not going to do a puppet show for that circumstance, even though like I know you're chasing a shot, you finally got the foil in focus, but then like musically it was done. It was time.
Oh, you were aware of that then?
Well, like
I don't think so. I don't think you saw me doing that. Not that specific moment,
but like I knew that the foil was going to look cool and that you were going to like work on it. But then I knew that like it was kind of done and I kind of moved on. And then it did come back later. And
there are priorities here.
Like I'm doing like the musical priority. I don't want to like.
Totally.
Yeah.
And that always also serves the video, I think. I think that we figured out a long time ago, you always do what is the right thing for the music, the art, the sound, in terms of video. Yeah. When it's not a music video. So this is that weird space between documentation and like some arty thing, like where we have to make these decisions as to what is included or how to relate to the video.
I mean, even with that, like it's like I would do the same thing with a musician. So if I'm working with a musician and we kind of like there arrives a specific kind of moment, I'm not going to stay there just because like the significance of the odd synchronicity that has happened does not overweigh the aesthetic language that's happening and needs to move on. So like if we arrive at like, oh, we're both at low notes now, that's what, like, it's like that can happen and it could be musically interesting to stay there, but more often than not, I will always prioritize the formal and gestural thing that are happening.
Totally, but I want to make the distinction there. You said the synchronicity. This isn't that synchronicity,
for sure.
But I see what you're saying.
Yeah, I was saying in the musical context, because like with a lot of these things,
that's specific to that.
Yeah, it can sometimes happen that an unusual thing happens and now we're both playing the same feedback note or
right,
whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So like that is odd and unusual to have happened, but I won't stay there.
But not significant, actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes those things carry significance, but like I consciously don't do that. So this happens the same. Like, so the relationship to this is like, that was sort of the metaphor of like how I relate to like my awareness of your filming. Yeah. I mean, I guess for my part, it's interesting because I've been on the other side of your lens for a very long time, and I guess and some of this, like focusing and doing in videos, is so much of what I do. Like I feel, even if it's just you and me in the room, I feel like I'm performing. Like the what that means, like not like an audience, like in the sense, but like I feel like I am engaged in performance.
You're in a performance space.
Yeah.
You like assume
like something
a
happens.
gravitas.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah, and that's I think has come from doing this for so long, and also like I obviously can't see what you're filming while you're filming it, but I'm aware of what kind of language is happening and what lens you have on, so like I can sort of premonate the kind of visual thing to it. So like there's that projects something onto me that I am aware of that while performing. So for me, it feels very natural in the sense of like, I know I'm doing that and I know I'm performing and I feels like I'm like the ritual of performance feels real and feels earnest. And like gravitas is like, I'm not a very gravitas person, but like when I'm performing, and even if I'm flipping a skateboard.
There are no extraneous sounds. There's a moment of like air gap before and after. Like,
Yeah, and I think that's something that like didn't start off that way, and I think it just happened from doing the feedback loop of filming something and watching it, filming something and watching it, filming something and watching it, and like that became, for one, like very natural to be in front of the camera, but then also very natural to feel the projection of what this looks like, not what it will be because it is what it is now, but like what it will look like. After it's on an SD card, the media of it, like the mediatization of it, which is similar for like a lot of these sounds. Like I've got like a little microphone and I'm doing feedback, and there's a lot of the sounds that I can hear in the room, but I am aware that there's a lot of these sounds that will be a lot clearer. Like even some of the crinkle crackle of the foil, like I can hear in the room and it's really loud and severe, but the microphone is so close to it that I right now in this room don't hear all the detail that's there, but I'm aware that detail will be there. And it kind of carries a certain meaning beyond, like, the resolution is greater than, like...
What's the word for that? Hyper-realism.
Yeah, I guess there's, like, a hyper-reality with some of the kind of stuff here. And specifically with the lens that you're using and the kind of language that you're using, that's also, like, a kind of a bit of a hyper-real... I don't know, again, that may not be the right term for it, but, like, there's...
It is for audio, the audio that you're describing. I'm not so sure that it's hyper-real in terms of the filming of it, but, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you'd like to support the making of these videos, please join our Patreon. The link is in the description below. Thanks for watching.